Welcome back. Good morning, everyone. I'm on location here at Possum Creek Metropark. This is my second visit, but it's my first real proper time spending out with the camera and trying to take photographs. My first visit was more or less about a year ago, just kind of pre-scouting and checking out the location. And I only took actually one photo, and I'll show it here now, of just a sunset silhouetted tree out in the prairie there. And speaking of prairie, this place has gorgeous, expansive acres of prairie habitat, which this time of year is lying pretty dormant with all the plants, but it definitely has these very unusual kind of spring-like temperatures today. So it just feels really nice to be out. It's nice overcast lighting, which means I could be photographing out all day if I wanted to, and probably will, honestly. But I think it's going to be a nice day out. It's been raining quite heavily the past day or two, and so it's got tons of water droplets. And I'm kind of thinking, as I'm looking over here at this coniferous tree over here, I'm just seeing lots of water droplets, and I'm thinking maybe busting out the extension tube here that I have in my pocket and trying some macro out, because it's been a while, and usually macro photography is something I do typically in spring, just with all different kinds of wildflowers, and that way you can just zoom in real close and have that 1:1 magnification ratio, and just to really fill the frame with your floral or any other kind of subjects. But right now I've been actually focusing on, behind me here I have some tons of different little trees and kind of shrubby kind of branches here, just totally lichen covered, and it just really caught my eye as I'm going on the trail here, just a few steps in on the Argonne Forest loop trail here, and I noticed just all this different lichen here, and so I tried to do something a little different, experiment here. So I got my small telephoto lens here, 75-300 zoom lens, and I just figured that would crop in real nice and close into the frame there and make something that's a little more kind of textural and pattern-like. So a lot more of an intimate landscape. And so I'm not sure about the results yet. Obviously I haven't edited the photo yet, but just checking back on the LCD here, it looked pretty decent. I feel like with some minor touch-ups and just pumping out the colors and contrast a little bit more, it could be a very, very worthwhile photograph to take here. So I'm going to get back to photographing this one here. Just got it mounted on the tripod, that way I can get a slow enough shutter speed, keep the ISO level down, and then get a nice kind of variable aperture, typically in about the f9 range when it comes to the f-stop. But yeah, so this visit, it's going to be a lot of ground to cover. It's about 580 acres or so. It includes different kinds of successional woodland, different kind of foresty habitat like the Argonne Forest that I'm starting on here. And then probably one of the prime examples of habitat here is just the very, very large scale prairie, and we'll check that out later when we get the time to, and when we get to it. But for now I'm just going to focus along the trail here on Argonne Forest, at least that trail, and photograph this and maybe some water droplets over here, and we'll see what the rest of the day brings. But yeah, I'm starting to really get kind of inspired a little bit, being back out with the camera and getting those creative juices flowing. So yeah, I'm going to keep along the trail, and we'll take some more photos here. Alright, just to recap kind of what I've been doing here lately, those water droplet kind of macro photographs I was taking on the pine tree over here, the small pine tree, they worked out fairly well. The slightest bit of breeze, though, unfortunately, just kind of swayed, the branches and all that, so it basically made a lot of blurry photos that I had to discard. But I feel like I got maybe one or two fairly tack sharp ones that are composed well enough, and the lighting, everything kind of works together with a nice kind of dropped out blurred background. But yeah, it worked out fairly well. It was really nice to do that, macro at least. Nice little change of pace, because I really take a break from macro photography in the winter here, just because there's typically a lack of subjects. But with all these really spring-like temperatures and all that rainwater we got, producing all those droplets that are hanging off the pine trees. I feel like it worked out pretty well. So since then, I've just been going along the purple and orange loop trail here. Those both overlap along the Argonne Forest here that I'm still undertaking at least, but once the purple trail kind of ends, the orange trail is a giant perimeter loop around the entire Metropark at Possum Creek here, and that's the longest at about 3.5 miles. So I'm going to keep along that, just do the entire perimeter and then work my way down the smaller trails, and yeah, hopefully there'll be some kind of photographic subjects. I like to think so, at least. Actually behind me here there's all these different stone slabs, and they basically are bordering the entire trail here, because this apparently used to be a kind of like a driveway, kind of road crossing back when this park was owned as a private property with the local family here. And it's pretty cool because these little, according to the signage here, these little stone slabs are glacial erratics, which are essentially from Ice Age era Ohio, just different stone slabs that were carried over and kind of pieced together to form these little kind of stone walls here. And they basically are formed from different kinds of moraines, which would make sense because the nearby town from here is Moraine, Ohio. And so that's probably where it got its name, I'm guessing. But yep, I'm going to keep along here, photographing any and all. The weather is still doing pretty well. I'm actually really enjoying this nice cloudy day, which means I can be out photographing pretty much as I want and for as long as the daylight holds out. There's chances for spotty showers here and there. Fortunately, on my drive here it was raining, but once I pulled in to the Metropark, quite literally, it just stopped, and it's been like that since. So, but if there is rain, I did bring my pack cover and a rain jacket, so it's just a matter of throwing that on and then just continuing what I'm doing. And honestly, that rain could add another dimension to all the different kind of the environment and all the photographs I take. But for now, at least, I'll be perfectly fine with just the conditions as they are right now, and yeah, just to continue photographing in them, really. So ever since 1980 here at Possum Creek, they've been using these tallgrass prairies to host a diverse kind of mix of rare and plant species here. Typically ones that are very tall grass, as the name suggests, very tall blooming plants that can range from even 6 to even 10 feet tall here. And it's basically about bloom peak is typically around the mid to late summer and early autumn is when you'll see this just giant sea of just green grass and all these different like variety of different kind of colors and different types of wildflowers here. And that's the best time to really view this kind of particular habitat. But in time, I mean a couple months from now, it'll definitely be blooming back up slowly but surely with different plants. And the neat thing about wildflowers is that each one kind of follows its own schedule of how it's laid out. So I haven't seen too many photographic opportunities here or in the rest of the Argonne Forest there. It's a beautiful display of different pine trees they get to pretty much hike under, and it's nice and shaded. And it's a very relatively flat and very easy trail, honestly. I did get to photograph some actual water long exposures though of the Possum Creek itself, which was pretty nice to surprise there. Had to, it was tucked away on kind of slanted hill I had to hike across right next to where the former concrete foundation of the swimming pool was at. So I feel like those photos, for as as winter long exposures go, I'm not too much interested in doing them, but since I've never photographed Possum Creek before, I figured I might as well give it a shot. So I did it, and I use typically around the 16mm range. I use a circular polarizer filter just to saturate colors, knock out reflections, and really make the water, which is already pretty shallow for a stream like that or a creek, I made it even more shallow where you can really see the rocks underneath and all the brown dirt, and it just brought more liveliness and color to the entire all the different handful of photographs that I took while I was there. But I feel like those worked out pretty well. Other than that, didn't see much else in terms of photographic moments to really discuss there. And so as I'm looking out here to the tallgrass prairie, like I said, there's not too much going on right now. To do a wide angle landscape would be a little counterintuitive, and quite frankly not worth really photographing, just because of the really kind of cloudy gray skies. But that's why I've been really sticking at the moment to more closer, more intimate landscapes, like the macro stuff I was doing earlier, or even the small telephoto lens, just trying some more intimate landscapes and working the scene like that. And overall, those I feel like have been working much better with the lighting here, and it's been much more quite simply effective. But still going along the orange trail here, and we'll see what else we can do with the remaining amount of time. We still have quite a bit of time, but we'll see how much ground we can cover today. So, of course, when I get out in the open in the tallgrass prairie, and there's no trees or any kind of coverage overhead, it starts to rain. And so I thought it'd just be like a little trickle here and there, because it kind of has been doing that on and off, just kind of what I call spit raining. I'm just kind of spitting, just not really doing too much. But then it picked up pretty badly, so I had to quickly, and as my cameras, both my photo and video cameras on their respective tripods, they're already completely soaked. I mean, there's just a whole layer of just wet on top of them. So I quickly got out my little rag or bandana here, and cloth rag, and I just started drying them off. Don't really care about the tripods, honestly. I mean, if they get wet is what I'm saying. I mean, obviously I'll dry them off later or whatever when I get home. But then I put Ziploc bags. These are like a lifesaver, and I put those over top of both cameras, at least when they have the shorter lenses on or whatever. And I just kind of quickly, trekked right through, and I happened to be right at the point right over here where Argonne Lake is, and I noticed tons of different waterfowl. So I'm just kind of like a little bit, anxious and itching to go out there. There's way more than there is now. It looked like a whole flock already kind of just flew away or whatever. Unfortunately, maybe I think because I did somehow spook them. I don't know. They seem very, very skittish. But I quickly pulled out my binoculars in the middle of all the rain. I thought it was worthwhile enough to actually stop and check it out. And I noticed there's a few. They all look like duck species. From what I can tell, there might be, I don't know if it's a redhead, maybe like a couple pairs of them, and then some ducks that look more black and white. I'm gonna guess ringneck ducks, just with what I can identify, what I can see from them. But they were very far away, even with my binoculars. I really couldn't quite make out what they specifically were. So yeah, I'm kind of just right now taking 5. I might cook a meal or something, and then dry off the gear, of course. And we'll see if this rain kind of slows down or even stops. We will see. It looks like it's actually slowing down right now, honestly. Yeah. And then I might actually go out with my telephoto lens over here, just right over there, and see if I can, even if it's a documentation shot, at least photograph whatever ducks are out there. So yeah, it's been quite an eventful morning so far. But luckily I've gotten a handful of images, and they're all kind of different from one another. different variety of them. So I'm really pleased with that, at least. So I'm gonna, yeah, probably eat something and then get right back at it, or whenever the rain stops, and then I'll just go, you know, no holding back. But let me dry everything off first, and then we'll continue on. Alright, decided to brave the really rainy, just cold, it's just been so miserable all of a sudden. I mean, the conditions when I got here in the morning were decently favorable, but this is just, it like got worse and worse. And then like the rain, it was heavy, albeit, but then it just got to this really cold wind that just, you know, when you're already, you know, wet and freezing, just the wind just really amplifies and makes everything just 10 times worse. But so far it's kind of slowed down now, and it's almost, the rain's almost stopped. I don't know if it's going to stay that way. It could just pick right back up, like right as we speak, or right as I speak. But so I braved it for a little bit, had a little snack. Now I'm just kind of viewing the handful of ducks out here. I finally got close enough here. I'm actually at the edge of Argonne Lake here that I can view them with binoculars, and can actually spot like field marks on the specific ducks and see what they are. And so by my count, I see about 5 or 6 redheads, you know, even mix of number of male to female, and then it looks like about 6-ish hooded mergansers, which is pretty awesome. From what I can tell, there's only one of them that has that I'm guessing is a male, just because it has the white and black plumage. That's really just noticeable and showy, but they're much smaller than the redheads, so it's easier to pick them apart with just simply looking through the binoculars here. And they're all the way straight out there. No matter what I do, if I run to that edge all the way over there, they'll just swim or fly to the other side. I've done this, you know, dozens of times before, especially in my early days of bird photography at lakes like this, and they'll just play that game with you forever. So I'm not really going to push the envelope, especially with the rain that's still kind of coming down right now. But I'm glad I could at least identify what they are. I may or may not take a dock shot still, I'm not too sure. But my time here feels like it's getting limited, or at least my will is dissolving slightly just to stay out any longer with this weather. It's just really crummy, and I haven't really taken any photos in what feels like an hour or two, which is not too good. So yeah, I'll get back to you if anything happens, but yeah, we will see, I guess. Alright guys, that's going to conclude today's visit here. I feel kind of bad, you know, cutting it real short and very suddenly here, but the weather is just really bad, and I'm not really feeling any kind of inspiration now of the photos, or at least I'm not seeing anything that really just grabs my attention at least. My hands are freezing as well, the hand warmers aren't really helping, but fortunately I did get some good photos, I think, early on, and I think it made the trip overall worthwhile. So I hope you learned something about the location. If you ever are in the area, of course, I'd encourage you to visit, maybe during spring or summertime, especially when all the prairie habitats just blooming with wildflowers. I think that'd be gorgeous. Alright, behind me here is the sculpture that I was referring to earlier, out in the prairie here, so I'm going to make my exit this way. So thank you so much for watching, guys. This has been Possum Creek Metropark, and until next time, make sure to get out here. Thank you.